Okay, part 2. Let's go.
McDonald's are giving free meals to the Israeli because nothing will make you feel better after killing a bunch of Palestinian kids than a Happy Meal.
Oh, shit.
They have it
Right off the bat.
This brings me to Hamas, okay? So what Israel will say, because they say it to me every time they come on the program, whoever the Mehu Barak to, Naftali Bennett, whoever it may be. They say, look, we suffered such a catastrophic terror attack in October, December, that we have decided we are going to get rid of Hamas. There are 40,000 or so Hamas terrorists in their eyes who need to be got rid of. And I do believe they're terrorists. Only terrorists can commit the kind of act of terrorism we saw. So can we, on that point, can we agree on that? Do you believe Hamas is a terror group?
It is what it is classified by America as I'm not a big fan of Hamas, and they are a militant group. That does something.
Are they terrorists, you say?
Yeah.
Okay. So we agree on this.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 40,000 of them living in Gaza amongst the civilian population. If Israel has decided to eliminate a terror group, Hamas, as the world did with ISIS, for example, and I think there are a lot of parallels given the way they behaved on October the 7th to ISIS, how do you do it? How do you do it if you don't do it the way Israel is currently trying to do it?
Exactly not the way that Israel does it, because if you have one of the most advanced military powers in the world, and it takes you 3 weeks, 9,000 Palestinian civilian death, 21,000 injured. As we are talking right now, Israel just bombed Jabalia, which is a known refugee camp. This is not self-defense. One of the most questions does Israel have the right to defend itself? This is a no-value question.
No, well. Okay, well, Mohammed Hijab articulated this point very well by saying that Israel is the occupier. So by default, an occupier is already in an offensive posture. I like how he articulated that. I think it was perfect. It's not self-defense. They're already the occupying force.
A no-value question.
Well, I would ask a different point. I would say not only do they have a right to defend themselves, which every country would for a terror attack, right? But they actually have a duty and responsibility to their population to try and stop that happening again.
They've been doing...
And I do understand, and I agree with that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If it takes you all of that time, all of these civilians, to take out a few hundred guerrilla fighters...
We don't know how many of the...
I think 1,000.
We don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you don't know and I don't.
Even if there are 1,000 Hamas militants, nothing justifies the killing of 9,000 innocent civilians and children. Half of them are children. I don't think even if there are terrorists, do a ground investigation. This is what Anna Kasparian said in the PBD podcast. Send a ground operation, send special ops, look for the militant groups because they're underground. So all you're doing is bombing the surface, the buildings, and the children and the innocent civilians. That's what you're bombing, and those are the people that you're killing. But you're doing nothing to do any kind of investigation or any type of damage to the underground, because they keep saying that it's an underground, like a tunnel system, tunnel network that they operate in. So, like, bombing civilians and killing children are gonna do nothing to Hamas, and also the fact that Israel actually funded Hamas at one point further proves that Israel actually doesn't want to destroy Hamas. They've been funding Hamas. They've boasted about the fact they funded and made sure that Hamas existed so that Palestine can never be reunited, right? They want to keep Palestine divided, and even a politician in Israel once said that we should treat the West Bank and the PLO as a liability, and we should treat Hamas as an asset. Why would an Israeli politician say that and now pretend that they want to get rid of Hamas? They don't want to get rid of Hamas.
Oh, but
we don't even know if the casualty numbers are correct because they're all coming from Hamas. the health authority.
And we should believe Israel.
No, not necessarily. No, I don't believe either side.
But here's my problem.
But here's my point. I don't think we should assume that we know these statistics.
Okay.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we should assume we know exactly how many children are being killed. We do know a lot have been killed. So the moral argument remains the same. But we don't know how many Hamas terrorists have been killed in the last 3 weeks. We just don't know.
So basically, we're dealing with a very incompetent military force that has been sucking the America dry for years, and then they cannot do the job.
But how else do they get rid of Hamas?
Not like that.
How do they do it?
I don't know, but not like that, because they've been trying the same.
Have another.
They have. First of all, I'm not a military expert. Second of all, they've been trying the same thing for years. They go in. This is not an eye for an eye. This is an eye, a limb, a life, a house, a neighborhood, a whole population for an eye.
They don't see. I mean, your friend Ben Shapiro that you particularly despise.
Oh, I love Ben Shapiro. Very small.
Yeah, but you've been very critical. I mean, that's fair enough. I'm sure he would be of you. But when I asked him about proportion, he said I don't care about a proportionate response.
So that's right. Civilians as
Hamas did this, so we are going to get rid of Hamas.
But
it's not, in his eyes, it wasn't eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It was this group of terrorists did this, and we are now going to rid the world.
So get rid of the problem by bombarding civilian infrastructure. You are achieving nothing other than killing a bunch of children and women and men, completely innocent. But you're never going to get to Hamas because they, according to your intel, live in underground tunnels. So if they're situated in underground tunnels, your bombardments are not going to damage them. Like, it's your own argument.
And this is very important to look at things in context. When you see how Israelis talk inside their community, there was a very famous post by Uriel Elitzfeld. He is the speechwriter of Netanyahu. He said, "What is so horrific about understanding that the whole Palestinians people are our enemies? All of them are enemy combatant. We should kill them, kill their mother, destroy their homes, the homes that they raised those snakes, so those snakes will be raised in this house anymore." And this was reposted by Ali Chaket, which is the minister of, wait for it, justice. It's not about Hamas anymore. It is not about Hamas. They can tell you it's about Hamas, but it's not about Hamas. It is basically, they have said it many times, Piers. This is a way to kind of push them into Sinai. This is not about eradicating Hamas. This ship has sailed. I am sorry, but anybody who still believes that this is about Hamas is stupid.
Of course.
Because I don't agree with that.
Really?
No, because of
why they're...
I'll tell you what I don't agree.
There are like 100 people.
I think any
Gaza and
any country that suffered the kind of terror attack.
Because they...
I don't agree with that.
Really?
No, because of
why they're...
I'll tell you what I don't agree.
There are like 100 people.
I think any
Gaza and
any country that suffered the kind of terror attack that Israel suffered, with the kind of death toll that occurred that day, 1,500 plus people, grandmothers, kids, young women being raped, kidnapped.
I thought we'd gone over this the last interview.
Well, you can raise an eyebrow. They found a young woman's skull. Right.
But what about the babies that were beheaded?
Well, there was a report, and you and I had this discussion on air. You falsely quoted. I wanted to clarify that with you in person. You thought I'd said that 40 babies had been beheaded.
What did you say?
I never said that.
What did you say?
I said it's been reported that 40 babies were killed, some of whom had been beheaded.
Oh, that is so much different than what Bassem said, what Piers said. That's completely different. That's not the same thing at all.
That's what I said. So there's
totally different.
There's a very different.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it is different.
Yes.
It's totally
You
different.
accept it?
English is a second language, so
there's a thing.
Of course, yeah.
But you're saying 40 babies have been beheaded, and 40 babies have been reported to be killed, including.
So where are those being
beheaded? Well, apparently journalists are being shown utterly horrific.
Okay, this comes to a very important question about credibility. Again, I'm not condoning what happened in October, but I'm not a journalist. But as a journalist, wouldn't you take anything that an authority would say with a grain of salt?
Yes.
Especially if this authority have a law.
But you're saying 40 babies have been beheaded, and 40 babies have been reported to have been killed, including.
So where are those being
beheaded? Well, apparently journalists are being shown utterly horrific.
Okay, this comes to a very important question about credibility.
There's actually absolutely no source. Even Mohammed Hijab, in his interview with Piers Morgan, he doubled down on this point, and they couldn't provide a single source, a single primary source for the beheaded babies.
Again, I'm not clear.
He actually debated Muhammad Hijab on this exact point. They couldn't bring any source. Also, no source of any rapes that took place.
Don't even have no source. But I'm not a journalist, but as a journalist, wouldn't you take anything that an authority would say with a grain of salt?
Yes.
Especially if this authority have a long history of lying. And I'm just going to give a few examples. 1996, they bombed Kana. It's a refugee camp. They killed 106 people. And despite that they knew it's a refugee camp. They said, oh, maybe it's a one-time off. 2006, they bombed Kana again. 2014, they killed 2 teenagers at a checkpoint. They denied, as usual, but CNN was there. So they said, we have to say it. 2018, they killed a medic, a Palestinian medic, and they fabricated a video showing that it's someone else, that he was a human shield. And then can I just finish?
Yeah, but I do want to respond.
And then 2010, they killed Ahmed Oraikat, denied it, then said, it's okay, it's us. 2021, they bombed the media office in Hawass. It's not us, but no, I'm sorry. And then 11th May 2022, Shireen Abaf, a reporter, your colleague, she's Palestinian, American citizen, she was shot in the head. And they provided forensic evidence and even a doctor's video that it was not them, it was Islamic Jihad. How can I expect to believe this regime, especially if the president of Israel comes down with this ridiculous thing? Have you seen them there? No. He said, okay. This was reported by Sky News, and it was the funniest thing I saw in so much. This was a Colin Powell moment, but like the cheap edition. Mr. Herzog said, Isaac Herzog, it's like, we have found evidence on one of the terrorists, a manual to create chemical bombs. And then he showed this, and he showed, and this is, so I just want to say, why would a foot soldier go into enemy with like a manual to chemical bombing? Is that BYOB, bring your own beer, bomb? It's crazy. And what he have local ingredients to make it. And then this is this is a manual of al-Qaeda, of course, convenient certain Qaeda. And let me read it to you in Arabic because this is funny. النشرة الدولية المعنية بالتطوير الذاتي والمعرفي للمجاهدين, which basically say this is basically like a catalog for self-improvement for mujahideen. I didn't know that they have life coaches. So this, and you know what Sky News said, is that we cannot confirm or any of this, but we would show it anyway.
So let me respond.
So this is like let me respond. This is a lying government.
So let me respond. I do think the Israeli government has lied.
All the time.
Right? I do think they've lied. I'm not going to dispute that. I do think they've been caught lying. I do think they've said things that turned out not to be true. I also think that 2 weeks ago, a hospital was bombed.
Really?
And it was immediately... Well, I'm going to tell you what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Hamas immediately tell the world it was an Israeli airstrike and that 500 people were killed and that the hospital had been destroyed. And then as the next couple of days go by, the hospital is relatively undamaged. The car park was obliterated. Many fewer people than 500.
With how many people then?
We don't know, because actually we're reliant on the Palestinian Health Authority, which is in Hamas, in Gaza, for the figures. So we don't know the number. But a lot fewer people died, it would appear, than the 500. We don't know.
50?
Even 50 people dying is a tragedy. It doesn't make anything better.
Either way, it's appalling, but it may not have been anywhere near as appalling as was first said by Hamas. But here's the point. Most independent studies of what happened have concluded that it was almost certainly a militant stroke terror group inside Gaza, and they fired a rocket which landed in the hospital car park. But in other words, it wasn't an Israeli airstrike.
So I have an issue with that.
And they fired a rocket which landed in the hospital car park. In other words, it wasn't an Israeli airstrike.
So I have an issue with that. Because for 3 days before the attack, the priest and the patriarch of the hospital, because called the Baptist hospital, said that they have received multiple warning from Israel that they're going to hit the hospital. Mm-hmm. And then at the time of the hit of the hospital, one of the top aides of Netanyahu, he tweeted about that we hit the hospital, then he deleted it.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, Israel gaslighted the world.
I think it was, his name is Hanania or Hananiah Naftali. I wait. Oh, here it is. Just check this guy out. This guy. I think it was this guy, probably. This scumbag. Look at this. This Gaza reached today at Deir al-Balah. Israel focuses its military efforts solely on combating Hamas ISIS, while taking measures to protect the lives of Gaza's civilian population. And it's just a random beach shot of kids playing in the beach. Bitch, that doesn't change anything. Gaza is still in an open-air prison, and you're still bombing this city 24/7. Like, you saying that and showing a clip of like a kids playing. Of course, kids would want to play in a beach, but that doesn't mean the situation in Gaza is okay. It doesn't mean that the situations in Gaza are livable. Here's the scumbag Ben Shapiro. No ceasefire with Hamas evil. If the world is truly concerned about Palestinian lives, the answer is simple. Hamas must surrender. So you're giving collective punishment. Like, this motherfucker is tweeting collective punishment. Like, blatantly. Look, we're going to collectively punish a civilian population in order to bring about the surrender of a terrorist organization. How does that make you any better than Hamas themselves? You are, I don't know, pro-Hamas Turkish protesters hold the fireworks the wrong way.
Stop. They don't know. Don't look at what else of coloring and these out of a certain guy. Look at poverty. And the pain. I'm going to tell you all of this. What we're going to do.
This video is old. Mate, bitch, this video isn't even this video isn't even it's way back in it happened way back in May. It was during a celebration for President Tayyip Erdogan's re-election on Sunday, May 28th, after the Turkish elections. This guy just reposted something from like 6 months or so ago, and it's just saying that it's pro-Hamas. Who does pro-Hamas protests? It's pro-Palestine.
It was not that. That's why I said most.
No, that's not true. New York Times actually just published something to prove that it was shot from Israel. And the thing is,
no, they didn't.
Okay, numbers.
They didn't.
Numbers.
That's not true.
Okay.
The New York Times has not reported that it was Israel.
No, they said that.
They haven't.
Okay.
That's not true.
Over 10 years, Hamas launched 35,000 rockets into Israel.
Many fail.
They killed 69 people. And 25% military, only part of them were civilians. So over 10 years of 35,000 rockets, they killed 69 people. But in one strike, you want to tell me that these glorified firecrackers caused that kind of damage?
Yes, it looks like they did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, it wasn't the damage that was purported by Hamas. We wanted people to believe it was Israeli airstrike. So my point would be, I'm happy to concede that Israel government has lied about stuff over the years. But I'm absolutely certain as well that Hamas lie all the time.
Why are we holding them?
Including, I believe, all I've read, I believe they lied about the hospital.
Why are we holding the militant terrorist group to the same standards as the best
because they happen to be the ruling party in Gaza. So they're not just a terror group, they are a political group as well, a political party.
Okay.
Well, they are. So the question again comes this, and so far you've ducked it, so I want to ask you one more time. We can both agree that the scenes in Gaza right now are horrific, because I do feel that. But I don't know how else Israel can eradicate Hamas than the way that they're currently trying to do it. Do you have an alternative for them?
Well, again, we are locked in the same thing. What can we do now? But we don't look at what was happening over there. The best recruiter for Hamas is Israel. I mean, you have talked a lot about the horrible condition in Gaza.
Yeah.
I mean, let's imagine like a little boy called Ron. He lives in Gaza. You know, he have a horrible life, but like, you know, it's not that bad. You know, he has a cousin in the West Bank. He's living a good life. He wake up in the morning and he found out that he was kidnapped by 3 settlers. He was burned alive by kerosene and he was forced to drink the kerosene. His name was Muhammad Abu Khudair. That settlers did that to him in 2016. Said, all right, you know what, I'm going to leave. I'm going to find a way to leave to her. His aunt.
What he just described is absolutely horrifying.
Is a published author, and she won a prize in the Frankfurt Book Fair. His name is Adnei Salim. And now she was cancelled because of what's happening, just because of a Palestinian. His other aunt in America, his name is Amawi. She is a speech therapist, and this is close to my heart because of my son. And she was fired because she did not want to sign for government contract that said that you cannot join BDS, which I don't understand. Why do people choosing to protest peacefully by not buying goods from a certain country? Why would the United States make that its own issue? So, and this guy, this Rami is being approached by like, oh, join Hamas, join us, let's go kill Israel. No, I don't want to kill. I'm gonna live in Gaza. It's a life, but 97% of water is not good for human consumption. Half of the population are anemic. Even the not being treated, and it goes into the shores of Israel. It's like, oh, those Palestinians,
Which is
it's horrible.
Yeah.
So, and then he wakes up in the morning. He doesn't think about killing Jews the first thing in the morning. He thinks about being there at 5 o'clock at the first 50 people in the line for bread, because if he doesn't, he will miss the food for his family. And he goes back and he finds a message saying that we are going to bomb your house. He comes back, he loses his whole family. Now tell me, what is a proportional response to that?
I don't know.
You cannot create terrorism and then you...
I don't know.
They have created this.
I don't know is the answer. But Bassem, let me ask you this. Hamas will have known, and they perpetrated what they did on October the 7th, what the scale of response was likely to be. How does that help the Palestinian people?
I don't know.
They are supposed to serve.
I don't know. The wheels are already set in motion.
But it doesn't, does it?
I do not... I feel sometimes that Hamas is with us in the room. That we are bringing Hamas. Who has the power in this equation? Who has the fourth largest and strongest military power? The whole idea about Israel, it's like, oh my God, we are there. The Arabs are going to destroy us. Look at the map.
Because hang on, no. Hamas's stated goal is the eradication of Israel and the Jewish people.
Yes,
they make no pretense about it. They've made no attempt, unlike the Nazis, who try to cover up their crimes.
Absolutely.
They've made no attempt to try and deny, but they brazenly boasted about it.
Yes.
They are proud of what they did. And they will have known, again, that the scale of what they did on October the 7th would have prompted this kind of response, which would have led to thousands of innocent Palestinians getting killed. And my question for you...
I wish the 7th of October never happened.
Right, but
every time, something...
You say, well, Hamas is everywhere. Well, yeah. Actually, all roads on this particular part of the crisis, and I accept being going on for 75 years has got to, but all roads in this crisis lead to Hamas and what they did.
And not necessarily, because all roads goes to the condition that created Hamas. If the Jewish people were expelled from Europe and went to Argentina or South Africa and Uganda and went in and took the land, you would have Hamas and all.
You and I can agree. Oh, the conditions.
That was a brilliant point.
Palestinian people have had to endure in Gaza for a very long time. It's completely unacceptable. I think it's completely unacceptable that Israel has wielded such control over the people of Gaza, working out who can come in and who can go out, turning on and off water and power on a whim, turning off the internet on and off at a whim, all that kind of stuff I can completely agree with. But given that I think we agree Hamas are a terror group.
Okay, let's say...
Let me finish my question.
Mm-hmm.
Given that we agree that Hamas is a terror organization, who have a publicly stated position of annihilating not just Israel, but Jewish people, and as we saw on October the 7th, they mean it. If you are Israel, what do you do to get rid of those people who have shown the world that's exactly what they will actually do if they get the chance?
You know what I would do? I would give the Palestinians what they deserve. Terrorism is a virus.
Yes,
it's a virus.
I agree.
If a patient with a flu came to you and you're a doctor, how can you treat that patient? How do you treat as a doctor? How do you do?
Well, you're the doctor.
You give them nutrition, fluids, and rest. So the immunity of the body gets rid of the virus on its own. If I received that patient with the flu and I took a sledgehammer, it's like, why are you not getting better? You think that patient will get better? No. You are weakening him. You are making him worse. Israel did not just weaken the body of Palestine, making them unable to get rid of hate and radicalism. They have openly bolstered about helping and giving money to the same terrorist organization.
That's exactly what I just said earlier.
So,
I agree. I think Netanyahu is complicit in keeping Hamas in power.
Yeah.
It suited him politically.
yes,
Like this whole argument falls apart. They want to destroy Hamas, but they're funding Hamas and making sure that Hamas exists. They're actually They're actually accommodating Hamas's existence. Netanyahu has admitted that they funded Hamas.
And I think you can't get away from that.
yes,
There's no question of that. But there's also no question that the Israeli government, led currently by him, has to stop Hamas from perpetrating another terror attack.
Yeah, but they this is what it is. How could they want to stop Hamas and fund Hamas at the same time?
And again, it comes down to this question. What do they do to get rid of Hamas if it's not what they're doing?
I don't know. But as an Israeli...
They said it, he's saying it himself. How come they want to get rid of Hamas and fund Hamas at the same time?
Listening to this, how come that my prime minister bragging about giving money to the terrorist group that he is using right now to eradicate the whole...
Yes, they are using Hamas so that they can get to kill as many civilians, children, women, men, innocent people as possible so that they can eventually annex Gaza, as well as, and what they're already doing, slowly but surely, annex the rest of the West Bank as well. That's what they want. They don't want to destroy Gaza, destroy Hamas or whatever. That's not actually their goal at all.
Of people, and yet using them as an excuse. Isn't that weird? This is like Tony Blair being found giving money to Al-Qaeda or ISIS and then going to fight them. How does this work? How does this work?
I agree.
How does this work?
But I agree with you.
Yeah, it's a terrorist attack, and Israel is funding them. I mean, this is the words of Benjamin. This is the thing about Benjamin Netanyahu. He brags about that stuff. So this is a circular question. But Hamas is to blame. Who created Hamas? Who's helping them? And who is allowing for an environment for that kind of hate and destruction of Jewish people to aspire? And I think there's something very important to the Western audience here. They think that Israel is a small, tiny country between the Western audience here. They think that Israel is a small, tiny country between the hostile Arab countries. The biggest military power in the Arab world is Egypt. They have a peace treaty. Their neighbor, Jordan, they have a peace treaty. Saudi Arabia, Emirates, either have full relationship or on the way of normalization. Yep. The only people that, even Syria is not they did launch a single bullet. The only two crutches that Israel is Hezbollah and Hamas. A few militant, thousands of militant. Is that really formed an existential threat, especially if I know that over 13 years, only not 69 Israelis were killed?
I would say
would that really wipe out Israel? Is Israel that weak?
I think if you have two groups of people who are ideologically wedded to your destruction as a state and as...
Why is Piers still going back to that circular argument, even after admitting the fact that the IDF is funding Hamas, and then the IDF themselves are claiming to want to get rid of Hamas? This is all a sham. This is all an act. This entire thing is staged because they're funding Hamas. They want to get rid of Hamas. There's some kind of charlatanry, some sort of foul play, that's some sort of scam is going on here, trying to scam us into thinking that they actually want to get rid of Hamas. this severe foul play.
As a populace, and you're constantly firing rockets, as Hamas have done for over a decade now, then that cannot be acceptable. You have to stop that. Right? These are terrorists who've now shown on October the 7th their true colours. They don't just talk about wanting to kill all Jewish people, they are going to do it if they get the chance. So I don't believe Hamas can possibly stay in any position of authority in Gaza. I think that would be ruinous for not just the people of Gaza, but also for Israelis. So if you're going to get rid of them, which many people think on both sides is inevitable and should happen as a consequence of what they did, the big question is, how do you do that? And I don't know any other way other than the way...
I know a way. Stop funding Hamas. Stop funding Hamas. Investigate why the IDF are funding Hamas. And if you want to stop Hamas, then do a ground investigation. Investigation doesn't mean you're going to shoot at civilians at random. But go do an actual investigation. Go inside these tunnels where they claim that the Hamas are hiding, and maybe investigate why they're funding them.
Israel is currently doing. Hence my personal moral quandary about this.
So if a terrorist takes over the Empire State, instead of taking it out, we bomb the whole Empire State?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Of course not. Yeah, that's the thing. You go investigate the Empire. You send SWAT teams. You send what's the word? You send the FBI and you send the CIA. If they're like, like you can't find the terrorists, you need to investigate. Send the CIA, FBI. You have SWAT. You have all these things. Why would your first plan of action be to just bombard the building? It's ridiculous.
Proportion.
That is not even a question.
Well,
that was not even a question, because that would be ridiculous.
You talk about the normalization of the region. I mean, the theory that I most buy into, supported by recent, I think, Wall Street Journal reporting, that hundreds of Hamas terrorists had gone to Iran for training before this attack.
Okay.
It had obviously been very carefully organized, and so that is, I think, highly likely. But if you're Iran, and you're looking at all this normalization, and you're looking at Saudi Arabia being next, this is your worst nightmare. So a perfect time to commit an atrocity like this through your proxy of Hamas.
Again, I'm not a political expert to know what is the background, but let me tell you.
It's a likely theory.
Is Hamas justified? Is all of the horrible conditions that Palestinians are living in, is that a justification for Hamas doing what they did in October 7th? Good.
Do you think so?
Of course not.
Right. So we're agreed.
No, of course. So let me ask you the question a different way. There is no justification what Israel is doing now.
Absolutely.
No Hamas, no terrorist attack justifies this.
Absolutely.
Because you have been there.
No, but that's
you have been there. You
Yeah.
have stood against the Iraq war.
Yes.
And that is too much.
Yeah, but here's the
You are
difference.
killing a whole
No,
population.
here's the difference. I didn't stand against them for that reason. I stood against the Iraq war because I did not believe we had seen evidence that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. So we were fighting a war against a country and a despotic leader which had nothing to do with 9/11, as they were trying to claim. It was actually a lie perpetrated on the world, and the consequences were disastrous. 1 million people died. I mean, over 150 British troops died. My brother served in Iraq and could have been one of them. You know, the whole thing was a fiasco, a deadly fiasco. It led to the rise of ISIS and all the hell that came with that. So, you know, yes, absolutely, I fought that campaign against that war, and I wish I'd been successful. But the singular difference here is no one is disputing, least of all the Hamas themselves, that they perpetrated this attack. And I believe Israel has a fundamental right and a duty to defend its people from them doing it again. So if we can agree on that as a principle of a country that's had that kind of attack and how you deal with it, the question then becomes, how do you eradicate the people who did it? And I just think, given the intense nature of the way the population exists in Gaza, very, very large numbers of people in confined places, and that is in itself unacceptable, and I will agree with you about all of that, and that has to be fixed longer term. But actually, if Hamas are everywhere there amongst these people, I just don't see any alternative to what they're doing, and I'm very happy to consider one. I don't think you have one either.
So if the Iraq...
I mean, Cenk Uyghur even I've seen the interview with the Cenk Weaver interview in Piers Morgan Uncensored, and even he proposed to do a ground investigation, send investigators, special ops, Mossad members. I don't know. Like IDF has all sorts of troops. Send an investigation team to flush out these terrorists, right? That's what Anna Kasparian said in the PBD podcast, and that's also what Cenk Uygur said in his interview in the Piers Morgan Uncensored. So why aren't anybody taking notes? Like, why aren't you, like, if you actually want to go after the terrorists, go after the terrorists. Go send investigators, because I don't know.
Where actually there was evidence that they were behind 9/11. Would that still be okay to?
Well, you have a parallel, which is Afghanistan. And in fact, I would say, but that raises a different question. So was the Afghanistan war just? I believe it was, in a way that Iraq wasn't. I believe that Afghanistan was harboring terrorists, Al-Qaeda. We know that they were training there. We know the Taliban were there. And we went in, we launched this war. It goes on and on and on. Huge bloodshed on both sides. And in the end, after a ridiculous overnight pullout by America and President Biden, the Taliban are back in charge and waging the same kind of medieval war they waged before all this. So you've got two things. Was it justified to strike back at Afghanistan for harboring Al-Qaeda? I would say yes. Did the means in the end justify the war? You could argue no, actually, because actually you ended up with the Taliban back in charge. So they're two different things. And it may well be here, by the way, as I've said, that if Israel pursues this ground invasion, it backfires horribly. It leads to a much wider conflict involving many other people, possibly including Iran directly, and it could be a horrendous escalation and a massive war raging through the whole region. And that is my fear about it. But I come back to the central point of justification, and I'm really struggling to see what else Israel is supposed to do to get rid of Hamas. And if you've got an alternative, let's hear it.
I do. Piers, this is never about truth. Believe me, it is never about. If somebody tells you who they are, listen. Israel has been telling the world all the time, they need to clear the Gaza Strip into Egypt.
You think that's always been the plan?
Always there. I mean, they have said it. They have
said that they're funding Hamas. Like, if they are saying that we are funding this terrorist organization, and then later saying that we want to get rid of this terrorist organization, that's why we're killing civilians, that only gives you one conclusion. They're using this terrorist organization as an excuse to wipe out the civilian population from Gaza, a genocide, in order to clear Gaza so that they can later take the land. Simple. Nobody, and also people who say that this is complicated, I think it is very complicated to defend a genocide, but it's very simple to call it out.
It many times. Why does Egypt take them? And do you think when Egypt takes them, do you think they'll go back? And then when they're done with Gaza, they will go back to the West Bank. They will kind of build the settlements around them, and then until they push them into Jordan, because that is the plan. They have talked, not just Benjamin Netanyahu, everybody said there's no state, two states. It is one state, and it's for the Jews.
I don't think he believes in a two-state solution.
Nobody believes in a two-state solution. It is one state.
But nor do Hamas, obviously, and they're the ruling authority in Gaza.
They
don't.
You see what you're comparing? It's a militant coup. It's a small militant coup.
But they are.
Israel as a nation.
They are the elected political leadership.
They were elected in 2006, and 50% of the people in Gaza right now are under the age of 16. They were not even born.
Understand?
Yeah, so and the thing.
All right. So fascinating. All right. Let's agree about that.
But that's the circumstance. It's what Hamas.
I know. Okay. Let's move forward.
Oh yes.
Let's assume somehow we get to a place, possibly at the instigation of countries like Saudi Arabia and others getting directly involved, where you get to a place where Hamas are removed. And I don't quite see how that happens without enormous further bloodshed, but let's assume they get removed.
They will get removed when they get They will get removed when they stop funding. They will get removed when they stop funding them. They will get removed when they actually send ground investigators. They send investigators into Gaza and investigate these tunnels.
Let's assume that Netanyahu is removed from office, which I think is highly likely just from the fury of his own people about what they see as the defensive and security failings, plus his attack on the Supreme Court already causing huge polarization. Let's assume we get new leadership in both places. Could there still be peace? Could there still be a two-state solution? It can never happen.
No, because Israel have already shown it's not about Netanyahu. It is the policy of Israel not to give the Palestinians their seat. It has always been there.
But what if you find leadership that understands?
You will not.
But why are you so...
You will not.
Why do you think so?
Because Israel has been...
But they would say the same about the other side. And I remember...
Who has the power?
But they would say the same about the other side. And I remember...
Who has the power?
Let me give you a parallel.
Obama in his book.
Let me give you a parallel.
Okay.
Let me give you a parallel. Northern Ireland. Okay? Northern Ireland appeared to be completely intractable, with the IRA and the loyalist paramilitaries trying to kill each other. In the IRA's case, trying to kill British people as well, because they did not want this to go the way that people wanted it to go. And ultimately, we got to peace because we found leaders who actually had the courage, the moral courage, to get in the room with the people that were trying to kill them and to do a deal. I don't think you can do that with Hamas. They're on a different scale to go to the IRA. But we did have a seemingly intractable place riddled with violence on both sides. And eventually, we got peace. Do you not see there's any chance of doing that?
No, not with Israel. Obama, after he left office, he wrote in his book, the problem with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is that one side is extremely powerful and one side is extremely weak. There is absolutely nothing to oblige that strong side to give anything. All over the years, Israel showed you many times that they are not interested in peace. Leave Gaza. Forget Hamas for a second. The West Bank. What have they been doing in the West Bank? The illegal settlements did not stop a single day.
And it's completely wrong.
Yeah. But the thing
it's wrong. I agree with it.
But you see what they're doing in the West Bank right now? They are creating little Gazas. They are creating little Gazas.
Yeah.
And until they are like squeeze them.
It's completely wrong.
There is a hilarious documentary called The Wanted 18. It is like an Israeli-Palestinian co-production. And it tells about the incredible story about the residents of Beit Sahur. It's a Palestinian town next to the Nazareth. And they said they don't want to depend on the milk coming from the kibbutz. So they bought 18 cows. 18 cows. And they didn't know how to milk the cows or have a cow farm. So they were like engineers and doctors. So they sent people to kind of like to learn how to do the farm. So they bought the cows and they started to produce milk and they started to sell the milk to the villages. The Israeli authorities were not very comfortable. So one day the military government came as like, those cows, and I quote, constitutes an existential threat to the national security of the state of Israel. You need to get rid of them. And the movie goes about like the hilarious attempts of hiding those cows between the butchers and the houses. And in one scene, a cow is actually running and the Israeli soldiers are like running behind it and they corner it and they're about to kill it. And you know what did the cow say? You didn't fall for this. Cows don't speak. Yeah! But you know, it actually said something. You know what did it say? It said Hamas. But anyways. But you see, this is the ideology of the Israeli ruling, but they are not interested. They're not even allowing you to get your own cows. I mean, I want to discuss something that is very important because we have been talking about Israel being a democratic state, a secular state for all of its citizens, including its Arab residents, right?
Yes. Wrong.
2018, there was a resolution that was offered in the Knesset that say that Israel should be a state for all of its citizens. That seems basic, right? That resolution was not even allowed to be discussed. It's like, wait, why? And the rebuttal was, Israel being the state of all of its citizens would threaten the character of the Jewish state.
They always want a Jewish state. So it's bullshit when they say that it's only democracy in the Middle East. I mean, I think Syria was a democracy But by the way, it's not the only democracy in the Middle East because they want to be exclusively Jewish.
I have a friend of mine, his name is Envy. He's Palestinian Christian. They do exist. And his family comes from a town called Tarshiha.
House full of Christians.
As many Palestinian towns, these would have another Israeli town to exist. And I have threatened the character of the Jewish state. I have a friend of mine, his name is Envy. He's Palestinian Christian. They do exist. And his family comes from a town called Tarshiha. As many Palestinian towns, these were have another Israeli town called Kafar Brandir. It is a left-leaning town. They voted against Netanyahu by 70%. And they announced an auction to sell houses. And then they noticed that most of the applicants were Palestinians. They canceled the auction. Why? Because in each Jewish town, there is something called admission committee that can decide who can live in this town. Sounds like Jim Crow. And then they canceled. And you know what they say? In the reason they say, Kafar Radin welcomes all citizens of Israel, despite the race, gender, or color. However, the majority of the town would like to preserve the character of the town as being Jewish, Zionist, and secular. How does this go together, secular and Jewish aside? And this brings me to this picture. This is a very famous picture. Remember this picture? I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
This, for the people who don't know, this from St. Augustine, Florida, 18th of June, 1964. This was a white-only hotel. And these are black activists who want to defy the law and jump into data. This guy is the owner of that. His name is James Brook. And he was pouring acid to scare them out of the hotel.
That's terrible.
His neighbor said that James Brook was a victim because he was just following the law. His neighbor said that James Brook was a victim because he was just following the law. And you know what James Brook said? He said, it's not like I don't like black people. I just don't like them in my swim. Now, if an official said that, wouldn't you say that this town has kind of a systemic racism?
Yes.
This quote was not said by James Brook. It was said by Deton, the head of the Galilee municipality, when he said, I don't like Arabs. I don't just like them in my soul. The town of Nazareth Elite 2010, the Arab Christians in the town, they requested to set up the Christmas tree next to Nazareth. This is the birthplace of Jesus. And you know what they say?
Yeah, actually the Christians are persecuted just as much as everybody else in Palestine. Bethlehem is in Palestine. The birthplace of Jesus, the Church of Nativity, is in Palestine. And all the Palestinian Christians and even in Jerusalem, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is in Jerusalem, and the Christians over there, as well as in Palestine and Bethlehem, all over the Palestine and Israel region, the Christians are being persecuted just as much as the Muslims are. And it's just so despicable to see. It's just so disgusting to see all these Christians in the West, especially in America, supporting the Zionists. Like your own fellow Christians are suffering and being persecuted and are being tortured and oppressed by this Israeli regime, this Israeli apartheid state occupation. That you insist on supporting the occupiers. There's also another video that surfaced a while ago where a bunch of people, lots of kids in Jerusalem, Jewish kids, were spitting at Christian tourists. And the West, the Christians of the West, support them.
You cannot have it because non-Jewish symbols would offend Jewish residents.
But this comes back to what you were saying at the start, which is about the hate on those.
No. I'm not talking about the hate. I'm talking about this shining example that Israel won't tell the world that we are like the Western world. We are secular. I don't know if you know this, but they're not just like secular electricity against their own Arab. I'm talking about like Arabs with Palestinian, with Israeli identity. I'm talking about them being even racist against their own people. 1950, Yemenis immigrants that came from Yemen, and they were in the transition camp waiting to be transferred into Israel. Their kids were taken away from them and given to white Ashkenazi Jews because they were not white enough.
Wow. Why would Yemeni people come to Israel in the first place? Because Israel is awful to the Muslims, awful to the Arabs and Christians. They're awful to everybody.
But Bassem, what would happen if
I've seen some footages, some disturbing footages of Israelis doing, saying the most god awful racist things, and I'll cover that video. I'll show you the video. I'll show you the footages in a future video.
which person went to Gaza?
Why would they go to Iraq?
And exactly,
Even I wouldn't go to Iraq.
exactly.
Yeah,
My point.
yeah,
So-
it's a dystopia. Who? But
So stupid. Piers Morgan acts like a child sometimes. Like, why would they're carpet bombing Gaza? They're leveling the city, and they're taking land as we speak from the West Bank. They literally want the entirety of the land. So of course they want to.
but I'm just.
So it's not just this,
But
raising points about Israel making it like somehow they're as bad or worse.
no. But
What's going on there?
No, I'm just
Over
Yes,
the Palestinians,
but you know what?
a depressing way of matching.
Absolutely. But you know what? Hamas never claimed that they are the only democracy in the region. They never claimed that they are secular. They never said that they adopt Western values. And they definitely,
Okay.
they did not use that lie in order to carpet bomb a whole country.
Okay.
Now, here, I want to say one example, and I'm gonna leave it.
All right.
Israel, you think that Israel will by the way, the whole thing about the Yemeni children, you can find it in New York Times. It's called like the lost children of Israel, the forgotten. But even when Ethiopian people were immigrated to Israel, Ethiopian Jews, women then report 2013. That's not like 50 years ago. They reported that they were given against their consent and without their knowledge contraceptive shots so they wouldn't reproduce because they are the wrong color. Israel is a racist apartheid country that is projecting this shiny example of secularism and democracy for the people, so people can accept whatever they do because they look at Palestinians as lesser people. This is the whole point. And I would like to quote Winston Churchill. He had a quote that say, "I don't believe that we have made a great wrong to the Red Indians of America or the black people in Australia because they were replaced by a higher race, a stronger race, a more world-wisely race." This is why Queen Rania is criticizing the West. This is why we here said, like, where are your values? Because this is the crux of the problem. It's not Hamas. It's not Palestine. It is people looking at us as lesser human beings.
I don't dispute the characterization that a lot of the Israel administration look upon Palestinians as lesser people. Otherwise, they wouldn't.
They even look at the Ethiopian Jews and Yemeni Jews like less.
I wouldn't dispute that. I want to quote you.
Oh, they were Jews.
Twitter.
No, why would you end this? Don't end this. They even look at the Ethiopian Jews and Yemeni Jews like less.
I wouldn't dispute that. I want to quote you. I wanted to end this.
No, why would you end this? Don't end this.
We're talking for 2 hours.
Why not?
Some point.
We're gonna say it's time.
Do another interview. Well, this one goes big. I think this is a neat way to end it. He said, "I actually believe there is a middle ground between everybody and they can meet. I direct my criticism to the extreme of each one." That was you, Bassem.
Well,
I agree with that. But I don't share your view there can never be peace in this region. I think there can't be with the current leadership structures in both countries, in both places. And I definitely think you've got to be optimistic about peace. You just need to find people.
I hope so, but the reason is I refused to come on your show when your producers first called me for the first interview because I was scared. I was afraid. For me, that was a career suicide. This is even important because you are someone who's always talked about like against cancel, about like speaking your mind out. Speaking your mind out. I left Egypt And I came to America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, but I didn't know that there was a fine print said that you cannot speak about Israel. I have issue with that. Israel is a foreign country. They're allies. Good. We're going to
speak about this.
How many people lost their jobs? Even Ben Hadid. Ben Hadid, by the way,
she hasn't lost a job.
No, but she's talked about death threats, talking about like being silenced. Sure. And by the way, Ben Hadid is with, she's Palestinian. And you know who else? Vijay Habib sisters.
I love that.
They are with us.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I know them both. They're very nice.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you are that high and you cannot speak about it, it's not about. It's
well,
like
you can. You just have to. You can. I mean, I've spoken out about
disabled anti-Semites. Like I'm also waiting to get my anti-Semite label on.
And you get shot at, not literally, but metaphorically, all day long on social media. That shouldn't stop people from doing.
I'm just like wondering, as an American, yeah, but like, I'm doing now because like the first interview went well.
Right.
I'm doing that because I want people to see that you can really speak up and not just get canceled, but get rewarded. My career is going fine.
Yeah,
it's great because I want people to have the courage. There should be no limits. I'm kind of like so confused as an American citizen. Why every American presidential candidate have to go and kiss the hand and bend the knees to AIPAC? This is a lobby that works for a foreign country interest. Why don't we have like a lobby for Saudi Arabia? Since they're giving us war money.
You know the great thing? You can say that here.
Yes.
You couldn't say it in Egypt. That's why you're living here.
Yes. But again, a lot of people feel the burn, the heat, whenever they come down.
If I was an American, I'd be going, all right, Bassem, all right, we'll take your criticism because you can do that this country.
And I'm happy.
When you criticize the government in your own country,
yeah,
they drove you out.
Yes, and that's why I came to America, to play the white man's game, to actually to pass this acquired white privilege to my children.
No,
but the problem
is just to come train white people.
But here's the problem.
And the white man's game, the game in America is not a white man's game. It's a game that actually has a democracy and believes in freedom of speech.
There are Muslims everywhere.
You're not going to be put in jail for this interview.
Or I can lose my career, and I can lose jobs, and you know that. You know that.
In Egypt you could.
Well, here you can.
In Egypt they arrested
you. Here you can.
And they threatened you. And you would have probably ended up in prison.
Here in that. Here a lot of people lost their jobs because this. But
it depends what they say.
Of course, but again,
if you're Kanye West and dispute anti-Semitic,
no, I'm not.
You're going to always never. You're going to lose.
I will never adopt that kind of thing. But the thing is, there is dark wisdoms everywhere. Right. As I told you at the beginning, you cannot just say it's like anti-Semitic. Like I mean, now how come that the Palestinian flag is outlawed? By the way, it's outlawed in Israel. If you raise the Palestinian, you go to jail. And now they say like the Palestinian flag is a pro-Hamas. No, I was doing a comedy show in Arizona, and a guy was like wearing like a kufiya, like a scarf, and I took it, and I'm not like in hyperbole and like wearing symbols, but I just thought it because like why are we going to outlaw colors and flags? That is absurd. That is not right.
I agree. I don't think you should, but you should certainly outlaw Hamas.
They're already outlawed. I'm not supporting them. Okay. But the people with the power, the people who supposed to have it.
And you should, by the way, I will say this, you should be able to criticize the Israeli government without being accused of anti-Semitic. But I have in this interview repeatedly, and I'm not anti-Semitic. I just have a problem with all of what the Israeli government has been doing.
And I have a problem with how any criticism to Israel by some circles here are considered anti-Semite. This is not fair.
Yeah, but a lot of the people doing it are actually anti-Semitic.
Yes, but also a lot of Zionists are against Israel, that they hate the Jews. You know,
we've discussed. I want to end on a happy.
But before that, I want to just like say 2 words about the media, which is, please,
sure.
Mr. Zomlok, the Palestinian investor that you have read, this guy lost 6 members of his family. An Israeli.
Absolutely not.
And when he went on like some British movie thing, he sat down and the lady told him, it's like, we are very sorry for Piers Morgan. I'm sure you don't condemn the killing of Israeli cities. What? In the same moment, there's another girl like called Yara Eid. She was like on Sky News, and the girl was like, Christ, like I lost 30 members of my family, 17 of them are children. I lost my best friend. And then, what did you think would happen with Israel? And forget about empathy. What about manner?
Well, I think you have to start. I've said this repeatedly. You have to start from a place of humanity. You have to look at what happened October the 7th and feel
he's doing it
outraged and
even he's doing it immediately right after Bassem Youssef pointed out that when people are going through an emotional, when people are talking about something deeply emotional about what happened to them, some sort of tragic, the tragic events of them losing their family members, you should not immediately ask the question, "Oh, do you condemn Hamas?" Because the poor girl and Mr. Sam Zablat, the Palestinian ambassador, is talking about the tragic deaths of of his family members. How can you think? And even Piers, as he's pointing this out, he immediately does the exact same thing. Look at this.
So what manner? Well, I think you have to start. I've said this repeatedly. You have to start from a place of humanity. You have to look at what happened on October the 7th and feel utterly place of humanity. You have to look at what happened on October the 7th and feel utterly outraged and disgusted for the loss of human life.
Yeah.
And you also have to feel that for what's happening in Gaza to innocent people. But if you don't, you can't feel both from both sets of people, both sets of innocent people being killed. If you can't feel a sense of despair and horror over their deaths, you don't have any humanity.
Believe me, Pierce, believe it. It's not really about that. There's a deep sentiment in the Middle East and Arabs that the West cannot look at us as equal.
Well, you know what?
So what I did, I went to the machine.
Yeah.
And I asked ChatGPT simple questions. Do Israelis deserve to be free? And you know what they tell me? Yes, Israelis deserve their rights like any other people. And then I asked the same question. Do Palestinians deserve to be free? And know what they tell me? It is complex. It is a sensitive issue.
Well, it's not complex. It's not sensitive. The Palestinian people should be free.
Yeah, but even the machines
have finished, and they should have exactly the same rights to freedom and freedom of expression and a way to lead their lives and to water and to power and to the internet that Israelis have, and we have here in America, we have back in my home country, the UK. And I want that for the Palestinian people. We've got to end it there.
Okay.
Mainly because I'm worked on my
All right.
in 2 hours of interview, and you have brought your wife's packing.
So
tell me again how I do this.
Okay, so basically,
Take the piece of off.
you
The olive oil.
yes,
Just from the West Bank.
yeah, from the West Bank.
And then a little bit of this.
Yes, yes. This is like amazing oil coming from the olive tree. This comes from the West Bank. Since 1967, Israel have actually uprooted 800,000 olive trees just to.
It has about what kind of psychopath unleashes their anger on olive trees.
They'd be delicious. Please thank your wife. Thank you. Wish her all the best and her family. And to those who are obviously in Gaza. It's been great to see you
Thank you so much.
in America. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
Let's keep talking. I honestly think the way through this is people keep talking.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, folks. So this was it, and this was my reaction. And Bassem Youssef always hits the nail right on its head every single time he makes a point. I thought that maybe, because Piers Morgan is glazing him in the beginning, I thought that maybe he's gonna cave, but no. Bassem Youssef is persistent on his points, and I love it. I love every single minute of this interview. And I actually have to say that kudos to Piers Morgan for actually bringing him on a second time and having Palestinian speakers on his interviews, on his channel, on his show. Even though he does kind of has to maintain this generic Western media talking points, but still kudos to him for actually bringing on Palestinian speakers for once, which is something that a lot of the other journalists and other news channels wouldn't even attempt, right? So I actually appreciate this, I love this interview. It was awesome. If you enjoyed my reaction, then please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified every single time I upload a new video. And with that being said, until next time, be good and have a good one.